Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 5. So Module 5 is the first module for the research paper itself, and we'll be working on it for most of the rest of the semester. The other thing that you want to remember about Module 5 is that you actually have 2 weeks to complete it because Alan has a week break for the 4th of July week. That means that you do have an extra week before these assignments are due, which means that you do have more time to complete them unless you procrastinate. So just kind of keep that in mind and give yourself a good schedule for these 2 weeks to complete these assignments. So what we're doing is we're working off of your annotated bibliography, which you've completed. You've turned in that the topic for your research essay already. You've used that topic to find sources for your annotated bibliography. Now you are going to take those and start working on your research essay. So we've got 2 major assignments to complete here to help you out. That's a formal outline and a rough draft. You're recommended to turn in the outline first. If you want feedback on your outline before you write your rough draft, you're more than welcome to email me. And hopefully I'll have time to look that over. Otherwise, just kind of follow that plan roughly. And then that way, when I sit down to look at your outline and then your rough draft, I can kind of look at them together. And then the other thing you'll do is you have a quiz to take. The quiz covers some stuff that's probably review, a little bit more about style, effective sentences, that kind of thing, as well as paragraph structure. And then I also have this Unit 6 in here, which I have some questions from as well, which is again review from earlier in the semester using research, just kind of really emphasizing what are some of the things that you can do with research. And so it covers some stuff that I think is maybe in a different context will help you out a little bit. And so that's the readings quiz like we've done before. And then we get to the criteria of the essay itself. So this is really the first time you've been given the criteria for the essay. This will not be due for another 2 modules, but it is our big research essay for the class. I need to change some of these numbers here, but basically you're taking the annotated bibliography and you're writing a longer paper using those sources. Now, I'm not going to cross-reference the sources, so if you find that some of the sources you found for your annotated bibliography just don't help you, you don't feel obligated to use them. You can always find new sources too if you need. But the idea with this essay is that it is the best of your current writing ability. So that's why we're spending 3 modules on it, and you're going to be focusing so much on it is because I'm expecting you to really put a lot of effort into this. So in this module, you're writing the rough draft. In the next module, you're going to get feedback on that rough draft from your peers and from the online writing lab. So you'll have a lot of feedback before you have to turn in the final draft. So the essay itself can be persuasive if you want, not necessarily argumentative. So basically, you will either have an actual argument with opposing viewpoints and refutations, or you will create what's called an assertion. An assertion is in relation to a general topic, basically presenting a point that you want to make, that you want a reader to either believe in or follow or understand by the end of reading your paper. So it's a little bit persuasive, but we call this expository writing, which is kind of primarily is to inform, but we have that underlying goal of having a point to it, having a persuasion to it, so that we actually have a reason for the essay to exist. Most students follow more of the expository pattern, but I do have some students who have an argumentative topic and would prefer to do that. So your essay, your thesis is either going to create that position with concerns to an issue or an assertion with a general topic. You'll want to make sure that you define everything clearly, that you've got background information, you've got defined terms, all of that kind of thing. A lot of students have a kind of history section or context section right there after the introduction paragraph. Because it's a longer essay, you can include stuff like that. So just be thinking about what else can you include to help the reader understand it better. You do need to use at least 8 sources. If you did the whole bibliography, you've got at least 12 to start with. And then, like I said, you can find more if you need to. And then you should be using lots of quoted and paraphrased material. This is a research paper. You should have lots of research in it. Some students feel like they're using too much and they feel like they haven't really written anything because there's so much research. And at that point, I say you're doing it correctly, because we want all of that research. And that Unit 6 really goes over like some areas where you would want to, if you're going to make a statement about something, support it with evidence. So adding in a lot more of those sources than maybe you're used to. A clear and effective pattern of organization. Address opposing viewpoints if you need to. That's really only applies to those who have an actual argument, but sometimes students want to cover more of the pros and cons of their topic, and that's totally fine also. Have a tone that establishes authority. You can use personal experience if you need to, as long as it is relevant and provides context, as opposed to just because you want to talk about yourself. And then you're not going to contain any part of the annotated bibliography. So you're not copying the introduction paragraph from the annotated bibliography. You can, however, copy works cited entries as long as they are correct. You want to make sure that you're using all the MLA correctly, that you have all the citations in there correctly, and that you proofread, and it is 7 to 9 pages. So it is a long essay. For some of you, this will be the longest essay that you write in college. So first step is to write an outline. There's not a real good example of a formal outline in your textbook, so I do have a sample outline here, but basically a formal outline is the one that uses the Roman numerals as the primary headings, and then has kind of sub-points under each one. And so you want to follow this guide. I do want you to identify 5 main points, even if you end up covering more like 3 or 4 in the essay, that's fine. Some points can just kind of be broken out. So if you're doing a medical topic, for example, a lot of students do causes, effects, and treatments, which is like a cause-effect setup. So that's 3 main points, but you also probably will want to cover like a definition section, maybe a history section. So you may have a couple other places or some other things, like maybe there are different types of treatments, medicated versus behavioral therapy or something like that. So you can divide that out as well in the outline, while it may end up kind of going together in the essay. So that's what I want you to do, is really think about what else can you include, as much stuff as possible in the outline, because it's better to have more things than trying to scramble as you're writing to fit more, to find more stuff to include. So a rough draft here, full 5 pages of your essay. So that's why having this 2 weeks is actually beneficial to you. It does take a little bit longer to get this written. So I want 5 pages of your essay, introduction, that would not be the same as the annotated bibliography, and your working thesis. Some students kind of start in the middle, and that's totally fine. Just tell me that you're skipping your introduction so that I'm not trying to search for a thesis. And then start using the sources, paraphrases, and quotes. You should never write a research paper without thinking of the sources first, because that's kind of like the first step, is making sure that you have source information that you can include for each main point. These 5 pages may not be 5 good pages. They probably won't be, but I still want you to turn them in. And so you have some time between this and then the next module, when you turn it into your peers, to add more or to make corrections if you need to. This can be a pretty rough copy of your essay, and that's completely fine. But I do want to see that you are working on it. So 5 pages of text, and then the works cited page with it. So if you have any questions about what you should be working on, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great week.